welcome back to another deck tech video where I break down a deck and how it works. Today I will be going over a deck that I thought really had an interesting strategy. But before I do, if you could subscribe, it's free and you can always change your mind later. Now let's get into it. Today I'll be going over a Bell Borca Spectral Sergeant deck. This card cares about cards being put into exile, specifically the CMC of cards being put into exile, because its power is equal to the highest CMC of a card that was put into exile this turn. I thought that this was a really unique playstyle and really led to something kind of interesting, so that's where we are. So obviously we want cards put into exile, and well, especially with red and white, this is really quite easy to do. So let's go through some of your deck essentials that you need, and we're going to start with card draw. Red really has a lot of card draw that we're going to use that's called impulse draw. Cards that do this are like Light Up the Stage or Urbrask Heretic Praetor. These cards will allow you to put cards into exile instead of your hand. The only downside is you have a limited time to play them. This fits the theme of deck perfectly and buffs your commander when you're doing it. So I think that card draw is pretty well taken care of with Red's card draw. So let's talk about mana ramp next. You're going to be running a lot of your normal Arcane Signet, Soul Ring. However, one of the cards that I did want to highlight and recommend playing is Honored Heirloom. This is a 3-mana mana rock, however it has a second mode that allows you to pay 2 and tap it to exile a card from a graveyard. This will allow you to not only respond to some graveyard recursion spells and make them fizzle, but also get you to choose a good card for your commander and make it big. I just think this card could come in handy. And last but not least, the last category we have to cover is removal. And white does this pretty well with cards like Path to Exile and Swords of Plowshares, which are a 1-mana card that exiles target creature, and that's pretty good, but there's also another style of removal that I'd like to cover. And of course the cards I am talking about are your enchantment removal. These cards are like Chain to the Rocks or Chain to Custody. These allow you to exile things until they leave the battlefield. And in this deck that's good because, number one, most of the time if they have enchantment removal they're going to save it for something bigger. And number two, it also buffs your commander because you get that card exiled. And now that we've covered the basics, we can get to some of the fun cards that I want to cover, and we're going to start with Aerial Extortionist. This is a great card in the deck because when it enters the battlefield and when it deals combat damage, you're able to exile a card from your opponent, and even though they can still cast it, they have to waste the mana to cast it. It's repeatable, and every time they do cast it, if you still have your Aerial Extortionist on the battlefield, you get to draw a card. So this card is going to put in some work for this deck, and it's going to be fantastic. Another interesting card for this deck is Commander Liara Porter. This creature gives you a cost reduction for spells that you cast from exile this turn if you attack, and it also gives you impulse draw to use that cost reduction. This card can just give you so much to use, so many resources, that I think that it's going to be a great card in this game. I felt that I had to mention it. Another thing I wanted to cover is the types of board wipes that you can run in this deck, and obviously you want to run board wipes that exile because it's going to possibly help your commander, but there's another layer to it. For example, you could play something like Sculpted Sunburst, and this is a board wipe that allows you to pick a creature, and your opponents can pick a creature with equal or lesser power. The rest get exiled. Some of you probably already see where this is going, but the key thing to remember, if you don't see where it's going, is that your commander's power is 0 before any cards are exiled. So if you didn't exile any cards this turn, and this is the first thing that you cast to exile cards, you can pick your commander, and they have to pick something with 0 power or less. Meaning they're going to have to get rid of basically all of their creatures, and well, your commander's going to become just as powerful as the highest CMC creature that was exiled. So this is going to be such a one-sided board wipe, and it's going to help you out a lot. Anyway, I think that's all you really need to know to build this deck. As always, the full deck list is in the description. If you liked the video, consider leaving a like. For more Magic content, subscribe. That's going to be all. Until next time, whether on this plane or another, have a wonderful day.